How is social psychology different from other fields of study? Why should we learn about social psychology?
Social psychology is related to a number of disciplines and subdisciplines, including sociology, clinical psychology, personality psychology, and cognitive psychology, just to name a few. These fields of study have similar perspectives, assumptions, and they use similar research methods. But there are a few differences we should consider. A major difference between social psychology and sociology is whether the focus is on the individual or the group. Social psychology tends to focus on individuals and their experience of the world, their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Sociology focuses on groups, organizations, communities, and societies, how they form, how they develop, how they operate. Sociologists are not concerned with the individual's experience within the group. Social psychologists study typical attitudes, emotions, and behaviors, those exhibited by the greatest number of humans, the largest section under the bell curve. Clinical psychologists, on the other hand, study, diagnose, and treat abnormal behavior. Social psychology tries to identify how people are similar in their experience of the world, how social factors affect most people. Personality psychology, on the other hand, looks at how people are different and how their uniqueness affects their behavior across situations. Both social psychologists and cognitive psychologists are interested in mental processes, but social psychologists zoom in on studying those processes that are relevant to social situations. Now that we've distinguished social psychology from other disciplines, let's take a look at some of the benefits of learning more about this field. The first reason is the gap between what the research says and what society believes. Most people know very little about what science has to say about the human condition. Social psychology can help bridge that gap. Sometimes what society believes is supported by the evidence. For example, your mentor might tell you to give a firm handshake at job interviews to help make a positive first impression. But does a firm handshake actually work? The research does in fact suggest that a firm handshake is better than a weak handshake. That bit of advice is probably good advice when it comes to trying to get a job. In other situations, though, these two things don't overlap, and what society believes is not supported by the research. Many people argue, for example, that great leaders are born with the characteristics that make them so successful. But the research paints a very different picture. The evidence suggests great leaders are made, that they learn how to be effective through their life experiences. So, the evidence from social psychology research can help us identify what is probably true and what is probably fiction. Another problem with common sense is that it may conflict with other common sense explanations. Do birds of a feather flock together, or do opposites attract? Which explanation is more accurate? In addition, some of these ideas, these explanations, are untestable. There's no way for us to find out whether the explanation is accurate or inaccurate, while other common sense explanations are oversimplified. The phenomena they are trying to explain is too complex for their explanation. And still others are downright misleading. All of this is yet another reason why social psychologists rely on evidence, on data, on their research. Related to this is the knew it all along phenomenon, or hindsight bias. This occurs when people think research conclusions are as obvious as common sense. You might hear someone say, "Well, I knew that bit of research all along. I didn't need a psychologist to tell me." That may be the case, but social psychologists approach phenomena from a "we don't know anything until we have evidence" approach. They observe, survey, experiment. They analyze, share, revise, all in an effort to better understand the human condition from a more objective perspective, not based on their personal experience or their personal opinions. The third reason to study social psychology is because of its relevance to our daily lives, our interactions with other people, our relationships with other people impact how we think, what we believe, what we feel, how we express those feelings, and how we act. By understanding the effects of the social context on individuals, we can identify ways of managing those effects, of helping people interact with their world in a healthier, more productive way.